Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second Upskill webinar in the Upskill webinar series, Build Your Own Website Without Code. We've already had one webinar on product management, which was taken by our team member, Varuni Fernando. You can find this recording on our website. Today's webinar, I would be taking and we would be uploading the same slides and all our video presentations and links on the website for you to use. And on the 29th of September, Natasha Jade will be hosting a webinar on an introduction to biophilic design. Hope to see you all there. Moving ahead, in today's agenda, in the next 40 minutes, you will be seeing and learning how to build your own stunning website, which you have wanted for a really long time, but you've not gone through with it due to either the lack of resources, knowledge, or budget. Just like the just like a whole process, I'm gonna take you through four different steps of web development, which will help you achieve your goal. When we start building a website, many people come to the question where to begin. Many people are lost over here. Many people are anxious how to build a website because the major issue they have is people are going to make fun of their website because it isn't great or because it's just very simple. And many people don't have the resources or even the time to work upon a website. When I asked many people where would they begin, the simple answers I got were that they don't have any motivation to begin because they don't know where to start. Or people just told me that web development is coding and they don't know coding, so they're not going to start building a website. Or many people even had the opinion that if they even knew coding, they had no design creation talent whatsoever. And these things are the major pit stops for people where they could not move ahead. But here's the counterintuitive thing. Building your first website doesn't have to be so scary. It's easier than you were led to believe. Well, this statement would have been an absolute false a few years ago. But with the modern web design tools and the AI web development tools available to us online, we can build a pretty decent website within a few days or even hours if you're committed to it. And you don't need to go to any coding school, you don't need to go to any professional, you don't even need the help of any web developers over here because you have all the resources online, you have all the places, all the links, and every single YouTube video which can help you through this. So, moving ahead to our first step, planning. In the first step, you define what you want. You have an idea of what you need, and then you need to focus upon the industry on which you're working in. If you are an upcoming graduate, it is a good plan to look at other websites, other graduates, how they build their own portfolio. If you are in the technology sector, you need to go and look onto how different technology websites are there, how different companies are keeping their products outside, how they are sharing their own stories, because every product, every organization, or every company, and every person has their own story. And you need to focus on your needs, on the key trends in the technology, and the customer behaviors, how they would on relevant products in the industry. One very important thing while planning is to accumulate what the client needs and what the client wants. Usually, our goals are extremely high. We aim at a really high goal, but our needs are limited. We always want a Bugatti or we want a Lamborghini in terms of travel. But what we need at this stage is a car. We just need something with four wheels on it which can transport you from one place to another. Similarly, in terms of web development, you might see the websites of Apple, and they have an amazing website with an amazing UI and a UX. And that is something which is not feasible and achievable at a start point. They have developed their website from a constant process and they have come to this stage. So what you need to do is you need to refine your goals. You need to see what is feasible over here and take small steps. Once you have those small steps, you can understand what you need, you build upon what you need, and you can eventually expand upon what you want. Once you have your base set up over here, you have your goals, you have your key features, and you have all your identifiers in this area which can help you write something and push something upon a paper. You can move ahead to how to build or what base you want. So once you have your base, you can move on to building your website. All the steps you take before this is just to put your idea on a paper, to give it a certain structure which can be utilized and which can be worked upon. Now, going upon into the preparation, that is the step two. Preparation is the key part of your process over here. You need to write your own story. Each person, brand, or a company has their own story. A story which one or the other viewer can relate to. A story which will incline the viewer to choose you. You need to write upon that story. Now, many people have this question that they don't have a story, or many of these individuals who are new into the department or who are new into the sector, such as freelancers, say that no one, we don't have a story, or we are just new into this and we don't know what to do with our stories. Well, to be honest, every person has a story till the day you've achieved. For example, if you take a graduate, a graduate has stories accumulated from his academic career, that is 4 years or 3 years. You can use that and build your story over here. For example, if you're an entrepreneur, you start a new business, and there's always a reason for a person to start a business. There's a backstory. You might have thought your whole thought process. All you need to do over here is put your own thought process into your story. Now, coming to freelancers. Now, many freelancers say that they don't have exposure or they don't have anything to show to the public or the crowd. Over here, all you need to do is you need to present your skills. You need to make mock ups. You need to make mock designs, which can tell your potential buyer or your potential client or even a recruiter that he or she can work with different technologies, different case studies, and different ideas to present something. And once the reader sees all your designs, once the reader sees your story and can relate to the story, or if the story matches the reader's expectations, only then he or she will go ahead. It works in the same way of a resume. When you have a resume, if your introduction isn't good enough, it usually gets rejected. When you're going for a client pitch or an elevator pitch, if your elevator pitch isn't good enough, it gets rejected. Similar studies over here have shown that if the website, if the landing and your story doesn't match your product or doesn't match the ideologies you want to present, your website is likely to fail. So we get our stories, we get a good story, you get a good idea of what you need, and then you move ahead to choosing your right tools. Now, the tools you require over here, it's not necessary that you always need to be proficient in that tool, because the website, the web world is a very vast sector. You can start learning, you can look at videos, you have multiple resources everywhere. And with no knowledge, you can start on something. And as I have always said, practice makes a man perfect. You will not get it right in your very first try. But what I can assure you is, if you look through the right resources and if you look through the right guidance over here, you will have something feasible on your first try. And when you work upon that same thing and when you improve it, you can always choose the better tool. Some of the tools I'm going to be explaining today over here are, for beginners, we use WebNode, Wix, and for people with a bit more technical knowledge, we always suggest WordPress. Now, many people come up with a question that WordPress is not good or Wix is not good, and only who people who are lazy use this stuff. But to be very honest, coming in a few years, all these technologies will make your web development redundant completely. There won't be any web developers sitting over here because the AI tools and the online tools have been advanced in such a manner that they can do the work of 10 people within hours. They can give you resources everywhere, they can give you the technology everywhere, and there is an excellent support in the back end so that you can experiment, you can try, and you can move ahead with it. If you look at Wix and Weebly, you would have heard these names commonly. Many businesses use this, to be honest. Many corporates, many huge startups, and also many established startups use such technology such as Wix, Weebly, and even WordPress. If you look at statistics online, around 60% of the internet is based on WordPress. And the only reason for that is because WordPress is free of cost. People can use it. And it is easy to work upon WordPress as well as it is easy to work upon Wix. And it's as easy as dragging and dropping into the whole, into your own design, into your own ideology. I myself started my first WordPress website. I didn't know anything about it. I had no clue how it works. I had no clue what the different technologies, what the features are in a WordPress. I learned by experimenting. I made a very basic mock-up website for myself. It was a very basic blog I started. And all I had to do was look at the look at the documentation online, just look at a video. It was a 15-minute video, if I'm sure. All I had to do was log on to wordpress.com, create my own account, use the themes over there, and just launch my website. I had a very simple website within, I think, 2 hours, and that helped me. And what I'm trying to portray over here is, you don't need to know coding, you don't need to know what you're going to do. All you need to do is have the will and go to the right resources. Once you reach those resources, all the steps are laid in front of you on a silver platter. And once you choose your platform, everything is sorted over here, because you have a base to build upon, and you select the most difficult part, because this is where people come and get stuck. People come and question always that, I think Wix is better than Squarespace, or some people say that Squarespace is better than Wix. To be very honest, if you're a beginner, both will help you in the same manner, because they have an excellent support system online, they have an excellent design system online, and you also can find examples which you can take inspiration from. Once you have selected your platform, you have completed the most difficult part over here. After selecting the platform, now we go to the implementation stage. Now, speaking digitally looks matter over here. Anything you want to see on your screen will give a perspective in your hindsight. If you're looking at something amazing, you will automatically think that that product is amazing. If you're looking at a person's resume which has excellent remarks on it, or which is designed in an amazing manner, you would have a perception that that person is talented, that person has a good idea what he or she is doing, or the person can really appeal to the requirements over here. We only look at the images, or we read blogs after looking at the images, or after looking at the landing pages over there. Whenever we visit an online store, for example amazon.com, if you go to Amazon, as soon as you reach the Amazon front page, you see that they present all their top products over there, which have been well shot, which products have a good documentation, which products have a good feel and a look, because they are not actually trying to sell the product. Amazon is trying to sell their brand and associate it with their product. Similarly, if you go to any other place, for example, if you go to Etsy.com, now Etsy is a place for beginners, or Etsy is a place for all homemade or handicraft, or any small scale industrialist who wants to sell their product online. So when you go to Etsy.com, you don't see everything else. You just see the products which are popular, which are good, and which have a very amazing look, because people usually start at one place, and once they're looking at something, they tend to discover the whole website. They tend to discover your story, they tend to discover what you do, and that helps you. And once you have your right idea, you choose the right look. For example, if I'm choosing WordPress, I go over there, you have a theme library of around 20,000 themes. I'm pretty sure if you're looking and if you're trying to work on something, you can find a right look for yourself. You choose your look over there, and all you have to do is just amalgamate your story in that look. You have your story, you have your base over here. All you need to do is just bring it to life by pushing it onto that look. Now, over here, many people come with a doubt over here that, hey, some themes are paid. Hey, this looks very expensive to me. Or, hey, I can't do this because I don't know how to design, or I don't know how to work with any of the roundabouts over here. Well, we can start, you can adapt to the design over there. And once you start working on your website, you learn, you find your shortcomings. You also see that some aspects of your story are missing. Some of the important aspects, such as a documentation, or such as a product design, or just your origin, is missing from your story. So once you start executing your idea, you can always learn and improve. And once you start doing that, within a matter of a few days or even a few rounds, you can find an well established website over here. to help you with all these issues and to help you with designing, as well as to help you with the different aspects of colors. We have various free resources online, such as color palettes, free images, logo designers, and graphic resources. Like, you can create your own idea. If some of you have used canva.com, Canva is an industry standard in today's day. The day Canva was launched, it was hated by the designers. People started giving out hate comments that Canva is just a cheap knockoff of Photoshop and people can't do stuff on it. But in today's world, Canva is leading in designing. It's leading in their own sector. Similarly, you don't need to pay a lot. You don't need to have the skills to do everything, because someone has created the base design for you. Someone has created a base graphic for you, and all you need to do is go pick up that graphic and mold it according to your story, mold it according to your persona and according to your brand. Once you do that, it's very easy to use these resources. All these links are being shared in the chat over there. And after the end of this presentation, I'm going to be sharing this presentation so that you yourself can go and have a look at these. Coming to the rules of implementation, there are a few rules. These 12 rules need to be seen, because usually the failure starts at the beginning when you implement a website. You need to hook your reader onto your story. Once you start your story, it just should not be that A came over here, A started this, and this is all we have. It should not be a very simple story. It should not be something generic which you can find online. Hook your reader by saying something very unique, or just selling your points, or just what is your persona over here. Once you ideally sell your persona in such a manner that the user is hooked onto your story, it will continue, and they will continue to read onto your whole website. Now, if a person scrolls from the top to the bottom of your website by reading every single thing, you should be assured that you've done a very good job over here. When we create websites in our domain, usually we miss a very simple point. We forget to link the content over there. We forget to link our different sections, and that has a loss of the story. You lose flow over there. You don't hook your reader, and once the reader loses all their interest, they're just going to leave your page. The second important thing is simple language. We know people like to put big words on their stories. People like to use complicated stuff, complicated language. But from a user perspective, the simpler the language, the easier it is to comprehend. And if it is not comprehended easily, the user won't understand what you're trying to portray. And even after reading all your material, if the user can't understand this, you did not do a good job, because it is extremely important that you give a very simple story. You just say it in simple words. Hey, suppose I have a website. I'm just going to say, hey, I'm Preetham. And I'm not just going to say that I'm a web developer. I'm going to say my website starts that, hey, I'm Preetham. I'm just not your regular web developer. Now, the words over there, not your regular or not your usual, that's what hooks your reader on. It's simple language over there, and it creates a curiosity in the person's mind that why is he or she claiming to be different than the other people online or the other whole agenda. And once you put it in a simpler language, the people continue to read. The third most important thing is front load information for your readers. Never hide information, never put it in small print, never put it behind multiple pages, and don't just push it, or don't bury it into details over there. Just don't push them into multiple pages. There is a very simple psychological metric which is taken online. It says that if a person cannot find its goal in 3 simple clicks online, he or she will lose their interest. If you want your user to look at all the information you have, make it in a concise manner, be direct over there, and push it in front of the user so that the user knows there is a clarity between you and the user. There's a clarity between you, as well as there's a clarity between the reader. Now, it's a two-way street over here. It's not just that your job doesn't end as soon as you've pushed all your information and you've made your product live, or you've made your resume live. It has to be a two-way street. Even the user has to feel welcomed over there. The recruiter has to feel that the potential potential employee is extremely good or is direct, and no one likes twisted words. No one likes to be pushed in and around different websites, or no one likes to be sent, or no one likes to be redirected in different pages. And that's extremely important, that you front load information and be direct. Another important part is use a conversational tone. Never talk to yourself or never present yourself or your product in a third person. That gives a wrong impression, and it's not confident. It does not give a positive vibe to the reader that you're presenting yourself as a third person over here. If there's a conversation tone, users tend to follow up on the work. Users tend to follow up on the website. If I have a website, which for myself is a resume website, if I don't say I'm Preetham and I just say Preetham, a web developer, that has a very different tone. If I say, rather than saying, hey, I'm Preetham, I'm your web developer, that makes a lot different. And I'm trying to create a relationship with the user. Or I have a product, for example, I'm selling pens over here. I say, welcome, my brand name XYZ, and this is a pen. Do you want to buy it? Rather than saying, hey, welcome to my website. This is a new instrument we have developed and designed, which can be used for your comfort. This is a pen we have developed. Would you like to buy it? So, if you have a conversation tone and if you have an active tone over here, that helps a lot when you're trying to sell your story, when you're trying to build your own website. Now, these personal touches cannot be given by a third party web developer. This is something which has to come from your end, which has to come from your thought process and your own thinking. And finally, keep it short. Don't bury your users in details. Don't push them in all the details of everything over here. For example, again, if I'm selling this pen, I'm not going to tell them how this click mechanism works, or what spring I've used in it, or what what is the basic ink inside over that, because people don't want that. People want to buy a pen over here which is comfortable, which is nice, and which is useful for them. Similarly, when we come as a graduate over here, don't bury your recruiters in all the co-curricular activities you've done, or else all the redundant skill sets. Keep it short, keep it simple. Tell them that, hey, I'm this, I can do this, I've learned to do this, and I can improve over here. And I'm always up for learning. That makes it simple and short. And the most important and the most important aspect of your website is be generous with visuals. We go onto a website and we see that people don't use visuals. From a personal point of view, if I don't find visuals on the website, I don't follow through to the website. I just close it. I'm like, I haven't come over here just to read your text. People want to come to the website to see what you're doing. They want to have a visual relationship with your product, with the persona, with your story. Use images, use visuals. Many people say that they don't have any images over here, or they're just brand new in the sector and they don't have good images. Well, you can always use visuals. You can always create visuals using the free tools such as Canva, or go to freepik.com and download free images which are free to use. Use them, make a generous visualization, and create a visual relationship with your viewer. That will help you. When you look at the pyramid of why websites fail, or why e-commerce businesses fail, the main reason behind that is the images are not good enough. If the image of the person is not good enough, if the person doesn't look good, he or she will not be able to relate to your website. He or she will not be able to buy it, because whatever you see will sell. If the viewership is not good enough, you won't have a good sales. You won't have a good activity, and neither will there be any follow-ups. And and another important thing, which after many practices and after many errors, I've realized that we need to write the content for screen readers. I have to be confident, and I have to also make sure that all my viewers are over here. I need to be inclusive of all my viewers, and I need to make sure that my whole website can be viewed by people who are not who are visually challenged, or who are challenged in many parts, but they want to view your product because your product is good enough for them. Your product is really good that even they can use it. So you need to write it in screen readers. You need to make it accessible for people. Use the right colors. Don't use now, at some stages, you might have a really good color palette, but that palette might not be color accessible. So you need to keep all these stuff in mind when you're targeting a larger audience, when you're targeting some people who you want to get some different sectors where you want their interest to be developed over here. Or else, for example, if you're a graduate in social help and you want to get into the social help, you want to be a social activist, you also need to work for the people with different challenges over here, and for them to portray or for your story to be in their minds, it needs to meet their requirements, it needs to help them in that manner. And last but not the least, proofread your proofread your content properly. Every small mistake stands out. For example, instead of writing proofread over here, if I had missed a single letter, it would look horrible. Or it would look that he doesn't know what he's writing, or he doesn't know what he's doing. If he can't spell his word properly, what will he help us? What will he bring on the table? Or how good is that product if they can't do it properly? So always proofread your content. From a personal standpoint, don't proofread your own content because sometimes you cannot see the mistakes which are right in front of you. Take help of your colleagues, take the help of your friends or your family. Ask them to proofread your content. I have done it. I've asked my friends to do it. I've asked my mentors to do it, and they've pointed out mistakes which I would have never caught. It can be a simple comma or it can be a very huge spelling mistake. And it's always good to proofread your content so that your story is good. Never neglect your microcopy. Microcopy is the smaller text which, if your person is interested in your product or if a recruiter is interested in your skill set, he or she can go, he or she can dwell deeper into your website. And that's where microcopy comes in action. Now, you don't want to front load your microcopy to people because you would be burying them into details which they don't require, but you want to keep those details somewhere in the back end so that people can have a view about it. And finally, say hello to social media. Social media is your best friend when you want to market your website, when you want people to come onto it, when you want to market your portfolio. If you have a portfolio, put it on LinkedIn, share it into your network. If you have a e-commerce website, share it onto different groups. Make use of the social media so that you have a good SEOing going over there. You have your website which can be shown up on Google. Tomorrow, if they search your name, your website can come up because you have a good social media content over there. You have your content is well proofread, it is accessible by people, and when it is accessible by different readers, it is also accessible by the Google robots. When the Google bots read your content, they index it. And once your content is indexed, it is all because of the rules you have applied over here. If your content is simple, it is used by the simple Google search engines or any other search engine, and this will help you. And last but not the least, don't be afraid to experiment over here. Many people come with the doubt that if I do this, I might break my website, or if I do that, I might break the system. To be very honest, that is a myth, that if you mess up something, that or your whole website is going to crash, because every mistake over here can be undone as long as you don't delete the whole thing. But if you're experimenting over here, if you're trying something and if it does not work, you can always improve upon that, and you can always work upon your mistakes over here. I have created multiple websites, and that can be work for even our All in Tech website, the website which I created. The initial website which I made, there were many mistakes over here. I did not, my website was not accessible in terms of color combinations, and we had to rework upon that before launching. And those were the mistakes we saw over here. Sometimes you put images which are extremely huge and they don't load, or sometimes you just put animations and graphics which just don't make sense. I would like it because I've made it, I've put it on my website, but the viewer can't relate. The content doesn't match the image. And these are the mistakes, these are the experiments which you will try, which you will find in your path that have been limited, or those paths which people have not exactly seen, and you don't know what can go wrong at what time. But these are the mistakes which can help you experiment and grow. And once you have a base over here, once you've experimented and you're satisfied with what you've created online, you have the final step of going online. Once you have it, you can also say that all your stuff is online, everything is online, and you can take inputs from your viewers. Many websites I've created have had a simple button in the bottom which says, please give your input, or what do you think about our website, or where can we improve, or how can we improve our customer service. And you take inputs from your viewers, you take inputs from your mentors, your friends, your families, and you keep on improving, because it's a constant process. It's a story, and your story never ends. Your story is not supposed to end till the day you're standing over there. And to help you in these, I have a few resources which can help you in any pitfalls you might face, such as if you're using Wix, you can look at this YouTube video. This tackles multiple issues. If you're looking for information on different websites, how to manipulate, how to create your own story, there's a link over here. A few do's and don'ts, common mistakes. Now these mistakes have been collated and have been collaborated by different web developers from all around the world who have made the similar mistakes. And to be very plain and to be very honest, no mistake is a bad mistake. You are going to learn only after you make a mistakes, because without making any mistake you cannot learn. Without making any errors you cannot improve upon yourself. And as long as you're making mistakes, remember that you're growing, because the day you stop making mistakes over there, that's the day you've stopped growing in that domain, and that's the day you can never move ahead in that domain. And finally, many people ask what about the domain and the hosting. Well, it's very simple over here. Domain and the hostings are not something to be afraid of. I've put a guide over here which can help you choose the best domain registrars, the best hosting, and you can also get free domains online and free hosting, which can help you to build a very basic website for yourself. If you're happy with it, only then you can commit to buying a domain and a hosting. And that was the presentation for today. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask me.
Thanks, Preetam, for that amazing presentation and for providing so much advice to our audience. Yeah, just as was asked, please do send through your questions in the chat. While we wait for some of those, maybe, I guess, can you tell us a little bit about what your journey to becoming our web developer has been? Like, you spoke a bit about some of the websites you've done, but how long was that journey for you?
My journey as a web developer started in around 2015 when I was in my high school. It was a very basic, because we had HTML and CSS coursework, and that's when I was introduced to the whole world of web development. We made a very basic website for to portray information about our courses to people, and that's when I started. I started at a very basic scale, and today when I look back at that point I thought that, wow, I'm doing an amazing job, or I'm doing something which is extremely difficult. But as I've moved forward, as I've learned different technologies, and as worked with different people, I learned that that was the base which helped me start everything. If you have a good base, or if you have a good push, the the first push I got was from my teacher. That push was the only thing which was necessary for me, because I took that push and those teachers helped me move ahead. And then it was all upon curiosity. The more curious you are, the more technologies you view, the more people you interact with, and you also meet fellow web developers who will help you understand what you're doing is wrong, or they might pick up your work. They might ask you that, hey, you did that. I love it. Can I just use that? And that's how the whole process goes. It's actually a whole journey. It's a roller coaster. There are good days over here, there are bad days. Sometimes when I start to build a web page, it can take a few hours. Sometimes it can take a few days. It's all upon how I build my story, how I implement everything, and how I look at my end goal.
Yeah, awesome. So I guess it's pretty much a lesson in, like, you can sort of produce something fairly quickly, but it is sort of refining that skill does take some time as well.
Yes.
We have a question coming through. Akansha has asked, could you please elaborate more about domain and hosting?
Hi, Kansha. Domain and hosting is a very simple aspect of web development. Now, if you're a beginner over here, what I would suggest is you go online, you find free domains. If you just Google free domain and hosting, you can find something online which is free of cost. All you need to do is go register over there and build your own website before you want to commit on to buying a domain. And if you want to buy a domain, you just go to any of the domain providers online, search your name. Suppose you want akanksha.dev. You go on the online domains, you search akanksha.dev. If that is available over there, all you have to do is you buy it. It's as simple as buying a product from Amazon. You go online, you select it, you put it in your cart, and you buy it. And for further details upon this, you can it would be a better practice to go and have a look at these domain providers and these hosting providers. And the best way to endorse, or the best way to analyze if that works for you, is by viewing the different providers online or reading blogs. In a very short period of time, we'll be putting a blog upon our website which will be putting this whole presentation in a verbal manner over there so that you can read upon it and you can have a look at it. And I hope that answers your question.
Awesome. Next time, could you use Squarespace or Wix for an online booking system?
Absolutely, you can. Now, personally, Squarespace is not free of cost. It just has a 14-day trial over there. But if you want to try it, you go onto squarespace.com, create your account over there, and it has brilliant themes over there. You don't need to write a single line of code. All you need to do is go select the theme, push your product over there, or push your booking space over there, and just manipulate it according to your needs, and it's ready. You can possibly do this within a few days rather than going to a developer and asking them. But keep in mind that although I'm saying if you go online and you create your website, it's free of cost, it's easy, but it's not going to be at par as a web designer or a web developer, because you don't pay the plumber to tap the pipe, you pay the plumber to know where to tap the pipe. Similarly, you don't pay the web developer to use the technology, you pay he or she to know how to use the technology or to work around the issues over there.
Awesome. And do you find that sort of like there are sort of a couple of free platforms that you can use, but what's your sort of experience in sort of paying for some of those templates or themes or features? Is that sort of like a happy medium between sort of do it yourself and get a web developer?
So many themes, there are a few themes which are complicated to use. They have loads of functions over there, such functions which are not comprehensible by a normal person. At times, when I buy a theme for someone, I forget how to use this because they have multiple plugins over there, they have multiple things over there, and that's when documentation comes in handy. Every theme or anything you buy will have a documentation. It takes time to understand the documentation, and it takes a practice to work with it. But at the end of the day, you don't pay for nothing, you're paying
Yeah.
to learn over there. And each theme, you buy a theme to save time and save resources, and that's the only reason. And there are so many themes online. You can get a paid one, you can get the free ones initially, and work around those themes, see how themes work. And you can possibly, there can be a stage where you improve upon those themes without having anyone else's inputs.
Nice. We have another question. I have visited a few Wix websites and sometimes it shows it's not there anymore or it doesn't work, I think. So what's the reason for that?
So putting up a website is like a subscription, it's a lease term. You need to renew your domain or your hosting each year. Your story, as I said, it just does not end as soon as you've created your website. You need to improve upon your story, you need to improve upon your website, and it's a continuous process. While doing that, if you're interacting with your website on a regular basis, you get a notification from your domain hosting or your domain provider which says that your domain is about to expire. Would you like to renew it? And it's not a huge cost. It's around, I think the most expensive one I've seen is around 17 or $18, and that's the maximum, and that's for premium hostings online. And you go online, you renew your hosting. If you don't renew your hosting, the hosting provider will pull your website down. And that's when you get the error that the website is missing or it just doesn't work.
Does it make more sense to hire someone or outsource the management of the website for a small business?
Um, that's a very good question, Chaturam. It's a very complicated balance. It depends on if you want to do your work yourself or if you want to give it to someone else. Now, if you're doing the work yourself, you're saving resources, you're saving money. Whereas if you're hiring a developer, hiring developers is not a cheap process, and you need to have good communication skills. And as I said, before the implementation part, your developer will only come in action when you come at the step three, that is the implementation. Step one and two has to be done by yourself. The story has to be written by you, because no developer is going to write your story. No developer can pull your idea from your brain, because no one has the telepathic capabilities of already putting what you want on a sheet. So to answer your questions, yes, hiring a developer is a good practice, and it would make sense if you want something at a very small stage, and if you want something very fast, but you're targeting a very large audience and you need it to work. Like, it is a very need basis, and it's not a want basis. Everyone wants a web developer, but only a few people need it. Like, for example, if you're creating for a small business, I'm not sure what your small business is for, but if it is something such as a product management, or if you're selling a product, I'm pretty sure if you work around over there and if you spend just a week on the online resources, you would be confident enough to make your own website. And then after a while, after a year or two, when you have your business growing, when you have it flourishing, you have the capacity and you have the capital to spend on your website. And that's when it would make a better sense to hire someone.
Hopefully that answers the question, Chathra. If you have any follow-ups, feel free to send it through. Do we have any more questions from the audience today?
So
Okay,
while we keep all the questions incoming, um,
awesome.
we have slide over here, and if you would be there's a link is being shared in your chat. If you can log on to that link and if you can rate your experience, that would help me to improve the future webinars, and that would also help all intech to improve upon what we have received and how to improve upon our inputs. And we work upon a very agile process where we give a webinar, we listen to our viewers, and we see what they want and how we improve. So it would be amazing if you could go online over here and rate your experience. Thank you.
In the meantime, if there were any other questions, it's still okay to send them through.
Yeah.
We have about 10 minutes left. So um, please take the time if you are really thinking about building a website to ask Pri some questions while we're all here.
And while you're going for this, I'd like to move to the. So I have just two more questions for you guys so that we can improve and we can move on how to work ahead. The next question for you guys is, sorry, yeah, would you like to attend a workshop for the same? So if you guys are interested in building your own website, we would like to organize a 2 or 3 hour workshop where I take you through the whole process on your selected platform, and we work through the whole process to build your own website. And if you would like to attend this workshop, just say yes. Or if you're satisfied enough with this webinar and you feel that you can work on your own pace over here, feel free to say no.
Looks like we have some demand for the workshop idea.
And last but not the least, if you have any comments or what did you learn about this, just push in your words. We'd love to have a word cloud so that I can show it off on my LinkedIn that I took a workshop and people learned this.
A few coming through there for you.
And just to give the guys over here a very simple idea of how easy it's to build a website, I work in Trinity College Dublin and we create websites on a daily basis. Like each school, each course has their own website. We have around 150 people who work on the website, and around 70 of them have no relation or no background whatsoever in the tech department. Like many of them are from the psychology or philosophy or film or arts or sports as well. Like they have no relation whatsoever, but all they do is they use the components available online, they use the different resources we provide them, and they make wonderful websites. Sometimes they make web pages better than me, and we're just looking at them that wow, they did an amazing job just using the resources online. So it's all a matter of how willing you are to go and look at resources and how willing you are to search for things, and you can find stuff. It's not difficult, it's not intimidating. Whereas how people put it that web developers, or you would find web developers online who say that no, this is a very difficult task and this is a very niche platform, only we can do this. And that's usually a false statement, but it's not always a false statement when you go for complicated features or complicated websites. But yes, it's an easy thing, and if you want to kickstart yourself into the digital world, I think this would be a very easy task and a very helpful task for all of you.
Thanks so much, Preetham.
And so, just a pointer, we have another webinar coming up soon. And this register, a link is going to be shared in a link would be shared in the chat over here. It's a webinar, it's a very inspiring webinar, which will give you an introduction to biophilic design. And just follow our pages, follow our social media, register to our newsletters, and be updated. And also feel free to support us by buying our mugs online, because you guys have to support us, and with your support we can expand and we can grow. This link would be shared in the chat too. And I'd like to thank you all for attending this webinar. If you have any queries, you can email me, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn and you can ask questions. I won't mind at all. And I hope you all have a good afternoon, and I hope you enjoyed the webinar. Thank you.